you made two public comments, on Thursday. The first one you made was about the non-relocation agreement. A couple months ago, you were the first one to kind of point out that, hey, the A's want to leave Vegas for 7 games out of 81. That seems like a lot. And then in the reworked language that was introduced about 40 minutes before Thursday's agreement meeting, they said it could be up to 4 games a year or seven, capped at 7 every 2 years. I know you did the math. Little,
I did the
you
math,
said,
Laura.
yeah, you
Yeah.
said it was 85, but it's really 105 games that,
Yeah.
that could be missing out. And, you said it was like 380 grand a year, and that's like 3 million visitors. I mean, that's like a decent chunk of the
Yeah.
projections would be missing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and to me, it's all about like what did they tell the Nevada legislature when they were in session, last year when they had a big slide that said 95 events. Okay, there's a big slide from Jeremy Aguirre, 95 events. Next slide, 82 A's games, and then like I don't know, something like 82, 7, and 6 for other like one-off events, or like recurring events or one-off events. But in big 82 A's games, and that was what informed all of the projections. And suddenly, if I don't recall ever hearing them talk about, how are they going to, or I don't recall them talking about, neutral site games or playing, some games away from home. So, I think the Nevada voter deserves the deal that they negotiated with the legislature, and not what MLB wants. Like, why should the Nevada voter care what MLB wants? They want the deal that got negotiated in the legislature, and that's a deal that includes, $2 million in community benefits, which, that was a number we kind of laughed at. I mean, not laughed, but it was a number that was like,
I mean,
you're spending $380 million to get, maybe like $60 million in benefits back, or 380 plus you're giving up all the property tax from, a property that sits on one of the busiest corners in the world. But more on that in a second. And then, uh, eh, so, I don't think they should give up any games, but it's sort of like, at least, make it reasonable. And I think, and I was very pleased to see the Las Vegas Review-Journal's editorial board come out in favor of uh, making sure that the deal agreed to, reflects kind of current MLB practice when it comes to these neutral site games, like maybe 2 or 3. If you're the Dodgers, you go every year, like to Seoul or Tokyo. But if you're another team, you might be lucky to get an international event like every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, but if you're the Dodgers, those are always the away games. They're never going to give up games at
True.
Chavez Ravine.
That's true. Yeah.
yeah. And the second public comment you made, you pointed out how the Raiders are already exempt from an estimated $17 million annually from real estate tax or property tax, and your guesstimation is it'd be in the same ballpark. Was the line you used, right?
Right.
For the A's. So that's like maybe $30+ million a year that Nevada could be just kind of saying goodbye to. And so can you kind of explain that and that exemption that the Raiders and the A's, the Raiders have and the A's might have?
Yeah, so both stadium bills provided the stadium authority an exemption, because how the deals were structured is once all the construction at the stadium is completed, the stadium and all the land that's deeded to the stadium authority. And so as a public entity, it's actually specifically exempted under the law from paying any real property tax. But I was kind of, as I was, looking around the Nevada revised statutes to kind of get a grip on like, okay, where, what would the property tax have been? I came across this statute that usually only applies when it's like federal contractors who are doing stuff on federal land. Federal land's exempt. In Nevada, there's a lot of federal land in Nevada that's exempt from property taxation. But if you have a company that's operating on federal land, and they're leasing federal land, for a profit-making business, then what the Nevada tax code provides is that the lessee, the business actually has to pay the equivalent in property tax. And I don't think that it's being applied to the Raiders in that way, and I think it actually should be. And if you go back,
So Mark Davis is shaking his hand. He's like, "Damn this guy!"
well, I mean, honestly, I was kind of like looking over my shoulder, making sure I wasn't being followed out of that place. Because, I mean, if I'm right about this, I think the Raiders owe something like, over the last 3 years, like owe like $50 million in taxes, and the A's would probably have to pay 15+ million in taxes going forward. And it's not a real property tax; it's a leasehold tax, which apparently is important when it comes to but there are weird constitutional reasons why well, not so weird. The power to tax is the power to destroy. That's a quote from McCulloch versus Maryland, if you remember your U.S. history, and why the Bank of the United States can't be taxed by the state of Maryland back in the day. But all of that is to say, like, when it comes to like real property tax, like there are a lot of fights like between taxpayers. Like why is that guy's house assessed at this value and mine is assessed so high? And that's why we have like boards of equalization. Nevada has boards of equalization. California has a board of equalization, and like the purpose of those is to make sure that the county assessor and the county treasurer is assessing tax fairly, so that everybody is paying their fair share, and nobody gets improper exemptions. And I think that the county assessor may be, if my facts are right, may have failed to collect a tax from the Raiders it's supposed to, and the A's. And if the A's don't realize that they have to pay a tax, and that's something that they need to disclose to their potential investors, that, oh, oops, there's another like $15 million in expenses that we didn't account for when we made our initial presentation to you, just for example.
Oh, absolutely.
That's half of an entire baseball payroll if you're the
Hey, just a quarter, dude. They got like 60 bill this year, dude.
Most of it on the disabled list, or excuse me, the injury list, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's brutal, yeah. No, honestly, I still feel like you've read this language more closer than the Las Vegas Stadium Authority. I know this is just like another body that's kind of thrown together or whatever, but it's like, I don't know. I was just really struck by their lack of oversight and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I was sitting next to Alex Marks of the Nevada State Education Association at the meeting, and as I kind of gave him sort of like the implications, that sort of thing, and I kind of hinted at like if somebody wanted to file a writ to say, hey, make the assessor assess the correct tax, I think your entity might be in a good place to do it, but it is one of those types of suits that are like some taxpayer could bring a suit saying, hey, I'm not being taxed fairly because they're not paying tax and they should be. And it's a real, but it's real frustrating that like just how much in the way of costs are just like hidden in all of these legislation. Like they don't, 380 million is like this headline number. But we're not talking about like the constant capital improvements that are getting, that's part of the waterfall. If there's like extra tax money that gets put in, and the property taxes that aren't going in, and then just the fact that all these taxes are being diverted from general use. Like it's not like this is new money. This is just money that's been diverted for the general use of I guess the Clark County and Nevada taxpayer.